Donald Trump has arguably already locked up the Republican nomination, court cases notwithstanding. But if you think that that means that he will now turn to the general election, unifying the party and presenting himself as a serious and credible candidate, human being, man, welcome to American politics, because that's not the direction he's going in. He is still regularly threatening his political rival, right-wing pundits, and now anyone who even supports Nikki Haley, particularly monetarily. He sent out this message, and I don't have it in me to read the entire thing, but it starts with him calling her Birdbrain, which is obviously what a unity candidate does. But the important part there isn't where he talks about Nikki Haley and he talks about how she's losing, he talks about Joe Biden, he talks about literally everything in the world. He starts talking about donors, and he says anybody that makes a contribution to Birdbrain. I don't know why that's in quotes. It is a contribution. I mean, look, I think it's corruption. If he wants to make the case that it is, then let's come together and ban money in politics. But that's clearly not what he's doing. He goes on to say, anybody that wants to make a contribution to Birdbrain from this moment forth will be permanently barred from the MAGA camp. We don't want them and will not accept them because we put America first and always will. So if you are a donor, and there are a lot of wealthy Republican donors who have donated to Nikki Haley, if you continue to do that, that's it. You are excommunicado from the MAGA camp. That is about as strong of a message as he could send. No, I don't know exactly what it would mean in practice for you to be barred, but maybe less access to the White House if he becomes president. Maybe he turns against other candidates that you support. I don't know, David. What do you think that actually means in practice?
Wow, I mean, this is a tough one because look, Donald Trump has always been about extreme loyalty to Trump. The moment you cross him, the moment you insult him or you run against him, you are persona non grata. You get the nickname, you get ridiculed, you get his supporters threatening you. And even though Donald Trump knows that he's in such a great, strong position in terms of capturing the nomination, there's something about Nikki Haley, though, the fact that she's still in the race after Donald Trump has these 2 wins, that is driving him crazy. And so he's gonna keep putting her down, keep ridiculing her. I was a bit surprised that he made fun of her dress, that he essentially threatened her with extortion in his victory speech in New Hampshire, saying that he knows things about her that would cause an investigation. I'm even more surprised now that he would threaten the donors because he's gonna need those donors. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you wanna give money to Nikki Haley? I'll beat you anyway, and then you're gonna end up giving more money to me. That's how a reasonable politician would do this, but Donald Trump's anything but reasonable. There's some sort of dementia, psychosis that's going on with Donald Trump, and he feels so threatened. And why? I mean, he's winning. So it's strange, and again, it suggests that the Republican Party is even more trouble than they know because these are long. Jessica Tarlov on Fox News had it perfect the other night. She said, look, this general election is going to come down to a few tens of thousands of votes, maybe in Pennsylvania, maybe in Michigan. Those votes may be women and independent voters who remember the day that Donald Trump made fun of Nikki Haley's dress. And suddenly they're like, I'm not going to support Donald Trump. That could be the difference. And that's why every time Donald Trump is doing one of these things where he is messing with Nikki Haley or threatening the donors, Democrats should be saying, thank you, keep doing it, because that is going to cause women and independent voters, some of them, to say, I can't stand the drama with Donald Trump. I mean, not like Joe Biden, but it's a better alternative than the former president, Donald Trump.
Yeah, maybe. I liked your analysis of he obviously doesn't like when people turn against him. But what strikes me as interesting about this particular case is, and we sort of gave him a weird version of credit earlier this week for this, is that he is brutal to people who are challenging him. And if you previously served with him, no matter for how long or how much he lauded you and complimented you, if you turn against him, you're now dead to him. You were never great. You're the worst, whatever. But the flip side of that is, like, when Ron DeSantis endorses him, he immediately is super complimentary of Ron DeSantis and Ramaswamy and whatever. Like, if you are a critic of him and you come back to the fold, he is weirdly accepting of that historically. And so that's what makes this seem a little bit weird. Like, it would seem to be more consistent and make more sense for him to do what you said, which is, you know what, all of you, I think you're wasting your money with Birdbrain. She's not gonna win this, so waste your money if you want, and in the end, give it to me. You can come back, I'll pat you on the head, it'll be great. That would be more consistent. It would also be more, I think, pragmatic, because he's gonna want their support and their money. It's almost as if it's the money more than like criticizing him that bothers him, and I'm not sure why.
Or perhaps I wonder if Donald Trump gets off, to pardon a phrase, if he gets off from the power that he has, that he knows that these these nicknames are sort of registering and making his audience laugh. He knows that he's probably going to win the nomination, so he can essentially assert his power over Nikki Haley's donors. And there's something about that, him throwing his power around, that maybe has such great appeal to him that he's like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this because while I have an opponent, I can sort of play with them the way a cat plays with a little mouse that they've captured. Maybe that's what's sort of motivating Donald Trump. And it, again, I mean, psychologists and psychiatrists would have a field day with Donald Trump and what he's doing and all of this, but there is something weird about Donald Trump. Not only does he enjoy the counter punching, but he literally enjoys, when he's ahead, beating people when they're down. So
yeah, could be. Well, I want to turn to some of the other aspects of this serving as the disunity candidate. Donald Trump, having won in Iowa and New Hampshire, is starting to throw his weight around even more, demanding that everyone fall in line. And that comes in the form not only of attacking his former rivals, his current rivals, but also those in right-wing media. We showed you earlier this week when Kayleigh McEnany just tried to give him some advice and he savaged her. Well, here is what New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman, who spent a lot of time with Donald Trump and covering him, how she interprets why he did that.
He called her a rhino for that, Republican in name only, and told her to save her advice for someone else, for Nikki Haley.
Because it's a warning shot to anybody else who might be around him, who was once around him and is seen as having cred with the right and with the MAGA movement for saying anything that's based in fact that he doesn't like. That's all that is.
And again, like she said that he was the presumptive nominee. She seemed to be sort of bowing down. But what Maggie Haberman said there is true. She also acknowledged that there were a lot of Republicans who didn't like him and that maybe he should try to court them. So it really was, she acknowledged reality, and you're not supposed to do that. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.